Greetings gamers, my name is Anto and today we're continuing our series looking at the comparison between 5th edition and Pathfinder 2nd edition by looking at the starter sets for the two different games and how they compare and contrast, so we're going to dive straight into it. Okay, so here we have our two starter sets. You can see they're reasonably similar in size in terms of footprint. They're pretty much exactly the same size. The Pathfinder starter set is a little bit thicker, but it's really not that much thicker. But immediately when you pick them up, you can feel there is so much more heft in the Pathfinder 2nd edition box than there is in the 5e box. I want to say that we're not going to be diving super in-depth into the adventures for this, because whether or not you enjoy the adventure is largely going to be subjective. I'm looking at this from the point of view of I'm a brand new player. I've never played either of these systems before. I've picked up the starter set to learn to play the system. How good of a job does each box do of onboarding me into that system? We're going to start with the 5th edition set. Most of you are probably super familiar with this one, so we won't spend as much time on it. There's also not as much in it, so that is kind of works out well for us. But we're going to start with the 5th edition starter set, the Lost Mines of Phandelver Adventure. This retails, I think, for about $20. You can pick it up for as cheap as, I think, like $12 sometimes. A couple times a year they have sales on it. It's super available everywhere, easy to get. So I'm going to start by taking a look at the back. You walk into a store, you pick this up off the shelf. What does it tell you? It's getting started with D&D 5th edition. You get a 64-page adventure book with everything you need as a dungeon master, a 32-page rulebook for playing characters level 1 to 5, 5 pre-generated characters with a character sheet and supporting reference material, and 6 game dice. I was misremembering and thought you got more in this box. I just cracked it open to make sure most of the bits were in there for this video, and I was like, have I missed a bunch of blank character sheets? Like, I'm sure, I feel like this came with blank character sheets. Nope, it doesn't. Just has the 5 pre-generated character sheets. So I guess we'll open it up and take a look. So you crack into the box, you have your 32-page starter rulebook, you have the Lost Mines of Phandelver Adventure, and then you have your 5 character sheets. Weirdly, at least 2 of these are fighters, I believe, if I remember correctly. So we've got a noble fighter and a folk hero fighter. We've got a wizard, and we have a rogue. Odd that they would double up on the fighters instead of giving you another class. That seems like a weird option to choose. And then the rest of the box is empty. There's the dice, but I've already taken those dice out. It's just a basic set of polyhedrals, and then this little backer, so we'll just get that out of here and take a look. This is the real meat of what you get in this. This is what you're paying your $12 to $20 for. The starter set rulebook, the Lost Mines of Phandelver Adventure, and 5 pre-gen character sheets. No blank character sheets, no supplementary game aids. As far as it goes for getting people into the hobby, I do think that this is a pretty weak set. I know that the Essentials kit has some more stuff, and I know that the new starter set has some better character sheets, but I chose to look at this one because it's the one I have, but 2, it's the most commonly recommended starter set for people. When people are like, I'm looking to get into 5th edition, what should I pick up? People always recommend this specific starter set. They always recommend the Lost Mine of Phandelver as their first adventure. And looking at it now, kind of 8 years removed from the launch of 5th edition, I'm not 100% sure when this first came out. I assume it came out around the same time as the Player's Handbook. Looking at it multiple years removed, it's really underwhelming how much stuff, or how little stuff, you get in this box for onboarding new players. I mean, it's done its job. It's done its job incredibly well, you know. 5th edition has had an explosion of new players, but it blows my mind that they could do so much with so little. So looking at the starter set rulebook, getting straight stuck in, we have our little getting started thing there. Hey, welcome to D&D. This is what a role-playing game is, I think. Yeah, this is what a role-playing game is. Here's how the dice work. Here's how the general structure of play works. Here's your abilities. The advantage, disadvantage system, ability checks, all of your different base skills, how saving throws work, straight into combat, how combat works, what are the different options that you can take in combat, how damage and healing works, how drop into 0 hit points and death works, knocking a creature out. Going into adventuring, there's travel, getting experience points, equipment, leveling, not leveling, carrying capacity, some different options for weapons, miscellaneous gear and services, spell casting section, how to cast a spell, and some spell lists, and then that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. There's an appendix for your conditions. It's handy to have that on the back of the book because that's something a lot of people are going to want to reference really frequently, is the conditions. But as far as here's an introduction to the game goes, it's pretty light. No information on making a character, no information on leveling up a character. It's very, very much intended to be pick this up as an isolated standalone experience, and then if you enjoy this and you want to play like real D&D, go and get the player's handbook and read that for all of your information. Then there's Lost Mine of Phandelver. A lot of people love it. A lot of people have a lot of problems with how some of the encounters are built, but it's a well-regarded adventure at least. 50 pages of adventure and then some magic item descriptions, some monster stat blocks and stuff. A reasonable thing to give a new dungeon master. Let's see how much. See, the box says, oh, this is a book to get you started as a dungeon master, but then it jumps straight into the adventure. Where is the primer on being a dungeon master? I'll tell you where it is. It's like those 5 paragraphs. What? Like, if I am a brand new player, I've never played D&D before and I've never been a dungeon master, I want more than that. I want more than that to tell me about who I am, like what is my role, what is expected of me, and some, tips and tricks as to how to run a game beyond what have we got, like a page, maybe a page and a half worth of advice on being a dungeon master before we're straight into an adventure that is fairly open-ended. Like, there are sections here where the players could easily go off the rails and be like, no, we're not interested in finding Gundren, let's just leave this town and go somewhere else. Where's the advice on what do you do when that happens if you're a new dungeon master and you've never played before? Kind of endemic to 5th edition in general, I think. Not the greatest system for onboarding new dungeon masters, very much feels the same through the starter set, but a well-regarded adventure. Plenty of people have found a good time in this set, even if it does have a lot of weird shortcomings. Like, I've never really looked. I picked it up, I've run through part of the adventure before, but I've never sat down and looked at it through the lens of how would this experience go if I had no idea of anything to do with D&D, and this was my very first time. It wasn't really until I picked up the Pathfinder version that it really hit me what a night and day difference it is. So then we get our character sheets, pretty standard character sheets, a description of some of our abilities, so they're all level 1. And then on the back there's some information on the races, the class, the backgrounds, and how you gain levels and what you get up to level 5. So the level up information is there, but it is all pre-generated characters. If you want to make your own character using this box, you can't. It's as simple as that. You're just not going to be able to, which I do think is a letdown, because it would be nice to be able to run through this adventure with custom characters to introduce people to the system a little more. But let's get that out of here. That is not what that box set is clearly intended for. It's very much a linear experience of, here you go, pre-generated characters, just get started, see if you like it, and then if you do, go and pick up the player's handbook and go into the full system from there. So then let's look at the Pathfinder 2nd edition starter box set. Now, I've always really enjoyed Paizo's box sets. I think they make incredible box sets. I really enjoyed the Pathfinder 1st edition box set, and I know that this box set has got a lot of stuff I like in it. So let's kind of give you an unboxing, show you what's included, and I'll talk about why I think this is a much better onboarding experience than the 5e starter set. So like I said, they're about the same size. Price-wise, this is about 2 times as expensive. I think it's about $40 most of the time if you're buying it new from somewhere like Amazon. So it is more expensive, but I do think you get a much more complete package in this. And when it comes to spending $20 for the starter set for 5e or spending $40 for what you get in the beginner box for Pathfinder, I'd rather spend that $40 and get those extra supplement materials. So let's have a look and see what it says comes inside. So we have a 72-page Hero's Handbook, which presents the rules for playing the game and creating characters, including their skills, spells, and gear. An 88-page Game Master's Guide, 4 pre-made heroes, over 100 characters and monster pawns, 4 game reference cards, complete set of polyhedral dice, and a double-sided game map. So a lot more stuff. You get a lot more stuff in this than you do in the 5th edition one. So let's crack it open and take a look. So off the top of the bat, we have our bases for the standee tokens. We have a set of dice, immediately more useful than the 5th edition dice because they're color coded. When you are a new player, it is much easier for someone to say to you, right, roll the red dice, than it is to understand what someone means when they say roll the 20-sided dice or a d20. You just say, right, roll your red dice. What number did you get? Okay, you've done your damage. Roll the orange dice and we'll figure out how much damage you've done. Over time, you can start saying, right, roll the red d20 and phase out the coloration of the dice. But for that initial experience, individually colored dice, incredibly impressive, makes it much easier to get into the game, and they incorporate it throughout the character sheets, which we'll show a little bit later on. Next, my absolute favorite part of this entire set, these little cards, player reference cards that tell you how the basic roll works, what a critical success and failure is, roll in natural 20s and 1s, what difficulty classes are, what you get to do on your turn, including what your actions are and some of your action options. And then on the other side, all your conditions. Give one of these to each of your players. They can read these in between their turns so they can figure out, right, what can I do? Okay, I've got these options. I can use my turn to do these things, or I have an ability that imparts this condition. I can look at this card and see what the condition does. For the sake of a couple of cents worth of card and printing, this should be in every single starter set for every single game. It should have little reference cards, little cheat sheets like this. If you're interested in getting cheat sheets like that for 5th edition, I have a bundle of 5e character class cheat sheets that give you a cheat sheet for each of the SRD classes, so the core 12 classes that walk players through what their abilities are, how they can use them, and it also comes with custom character sheets that are more user-friendly than the base character sheets. Comes with player reference sheets, kind of like that summarize the base rules, and it's got a whole bunch of other goodies. I will leave the link to that in the description below if you want to help make playing and learning 5th edition easier than ever before. Then we get a little ad card for Sirenscape, which is the ambient audio platform, and then just immediately the experience of opening this as a very first time player with the Pathfinder system. You have this big card, read this first, big bold letters, and it tells you how to interact with all of these items. So what is Pathfinder? A cooperative tabletop game, also called an RPG, of fantasy adventure. Grab some friends, etc, etc. If you are on your own, you have a solo adventure that you can play to introduce you to the core dice mechanic and to the concept of making decisions and the consequences of actions, as well as a little bit of combat. This is excellent because it doesn't assume that you need a full group of people to start interacting with the rules and start learning the system. Again, something that I would like to see for every starter set, for every system. It's not a fully authentic experience, obviously, because you don't have that interaction with other people, but it introduces the mechanics in a way that a person on their own can start to get grips with, so that when you play with other people, you are familiar with, right, okay, I know how to resolve a skill check. I know how to make an attack roll because I've gone through this starter adventure that's built on my own. It's only short. It's like a choose your own adventure, flip through the pages kind of thing, but it makes a massive difference for learning the fundamental mechanics of a game. And then it says if you have a group, if you want to start straight away, there's pre-generated characters. If you want to make your own characters, There's rules for that in here, and blank character sheets. And then if you want to be a game master, there is a game master's guide in here. Flipping it over, it tells you everything that you've got in your box. So you've got your Hero's Handbook, Game Master Guide, the polyhedral dice, the 124 character and monster pawns, as well as the bases, reference cards, 6 blank character sheets, 4 pre-generated cards, and the double flip side map. I do wish this double flip side map had a blank gridded version like the Pathfinder 1st edition box set had. That was super useful, but having a map makes a big difference. So let's get that out of here. And then next we have our character sheets and our pre-gens. So one thing that I like about the pre-gens for this is that it's not just an individual sheet, it's full on little booklet. So this introduces the character of Valeros, the fighter. Play a fighter if you want to fight on the front lines, use the best weapons and armor, and react quickly to enemy actions. One thing that I really like about Pathfinder 2nd edition is the way that it contextualizes different character options. So with classes, it says this is how the class is typically going to perform. If you want to do X, Y, and Z, this is the class for you. It's a really nice quality of life thing. Then opening this up, you can see we have the character sheet, including the dice color-coded to the actual dice that are in the box. And then you can see that there are little icons, little letters for each of the sections, and they correspond to things in the rules. And as you go through the rules, they reference all of these elements, which means that when you are playing, if your dungeon master says, right, make me a perception check, and you go, okay, how do I do that? And they go, look at section H, and you'll see a little number there, the big number, the plus number. Roll a red dice and add that number to it. So look in section H, roll a red dice, add the big number to it. What's the result? Okay, you succeed, you see the thing, or you fail, you don't see the thing. Same with attack rolls, right? You want to make a weapon attack against this monster? Cool. In section K, what does it say your weapon is? Oh, I've got a longsword. Right, okay, so roll the red dice, add your big number to it, okay? Then what's the damage? It says 1d8 plus 4. I can look at this, I can see that 1d8 is the orange dice, I know to roll the orange dice and add 4. This makes the process of learning the game so much easier because it gives you a common language that you can speak with your players. They don't need to know the language of the game. You have icons that you can reference, you have color coded dice that you can reference, and whilst you're getting them up to speed, it makes things so much easier. And then the rules throughout the Hero's Handbook reference those sections in a similar way, so when it comes time to build your character, you have that same experience. So that's the pre-generated characters out of the way, and then we come to our blank character sheet. Again, all the base die on the left here, along with what the symbols for the actions are, information on proficiency and how that works, and then similarly we have all of our sections labeled. It means when you're going through the Hero's Handbook and making your character, it is much easier because you are told exactly where each number needs to go. On the back here we keep our dice and actions and stuff, and we just have some more information on spellcasting, equipment, and all of that good stuff. Much more user-friendly options than in 5th edition. You don't even get blank ones in the base starter set, but having everything labeled like that makes it much easier to figure out what you're doing. Okay, then we come to our player's handbook, our beginner's box Hero's Handbook. This is entirely aimed at new players. It's got everything marked and referenced in relation to those starter set character sheets. It starts with a solo adventure, so very old school, flip to this page if X, flip to this page if Y style adventure that introduces a lot of the core mechanics, how to use your actions, how to use your skills, which is really nice if you want to get a feel for how the game works without having to have a full group together. Then it jumps straight into an example of play, which is really nice. It walks through a situation showing you the interactions between a player and a game master, and then we get the getting started section. It explains the core concept, explains the actions, the 3-action economy, the different dice types, how to read rules, where the character sheet references are going to be, and then it moves into creating your heroes. So you get pre-generated heroes in this, but it also gives you the option to make your own and walks you through that entire process. tells you about your ability modifiers, gives you a few ancestries, just 3 so as to not overwhelm, and gives you 4 different class options, again not to overwhelm, and goes through the options that you're going to have and the things that you can choose for these different ancestries and classes. Gives you a small selection of backgrounds, and you can see throughout the text it references the little lettered sections from the character sheet to tell you, okay, as you make a gambler, add +1 to your charisma, which is found in section D. Make sure that you check the T box for your proficiency in the law skill for games under section G. In your background ability area, B, write lie to me. If someone lies to you, you know it's a lie if their result is less than either your deception DC or your perception DC. So it tells you exactly what to put and where to put it. Then we get information on the classes. Again, play a cleric if you want to do these things. During combat encounters, you'll typically do these. While exploring, here is how you will help the party. These, how you play your character, what they're good at, super useful for new players to understand what makes this class different, and if I want a particular game experience, am I going to find it in this class? Then we get things like the cleric spells and abilities, their different features over a few pages. Same with the fighter, we get the fighter's abilities, the rogue and the wizard, including wizard spells. And then following on from the class section, we get some information on armor and shields, weapons, different items and adventuring gear, how to finish your hero, again with those lettered markers so that you can make a note on your character sheet where they are. Then information on how to use all of the skills and what abilities you get based on your skills. Then some information on actually playing the game, how DCs work, how the general dice mechanic works, how rest, light and darkness, all of that stuff works, how basic actions work, and then there's a little information on playing on a grid and using templates right at the end. Then the last 2 pages have got information on leveling your character up. It makes note to say that this character will be compatible going beyond 3rd level. If you pick up the core book, you can keep all your progress and just add to it. And then reference for getting knocked out and dying, and then a quick reference sheet at the end. Then we come to the Game Mastery Guide, the start of which includes the Menace Under Otari adventure, 28 pages. It does tell you right at the start, if you aren't ready to play this adventure, skip through to page 28 and start learning how to be a Game Master. All throughout, it's got breakout boxes of common terms, different references for you as a GM, how to run your game, how to plan a session, how to do exploration and downtime, how to award experience points, how to set difficulty classes based on different things, actual advice on building an adventure and building challenges, how to use different hazards and things against your players, how to reward them, what they should be getting in terms of treasure by level and what their coinage should be by level. Information on environments and hazards and magic items that you can give, and then a little bestiary section with artwork for a bunch of different monsters. So you've got a bunch of options for different things you can throw at the players without having to go and buy the core 3 books. Then it finishes off with a little summary of the Otari village, so you can use that as a home base for your players moving forward. Then we get a little reference for some of the difficulty classes and hazards and some of the tables, and same quick reference guide on the back. Then when we come to the big differences between this and the 5th edition box, where most of the weight and where most of the cost come from, we have a double-sided flip map for our adventure for Menace Under Otari. Yeah, let's open this up. So this is this gigantic playmat that's got 2 different sides. One side is this part of the cabin, and the other side is a different part of the cabin. Like I said, I would have preferred them to follow the Pathfinder 1st edition model of giving you a gridded blank side, because that's really useful, saves you having to buy a gridded map. But then the real juice comes from all of the tokens. There's 100 and something tokens here. We've got tokens for actions and reactions, so you can make a note of which characters have acted, who's used their activation, and then tokens for a bunch of different monsters. There's 4 different sheets here with low level monsters, high level, small, large, medium creatures, as well as a sheet of player character options. So we've got human clerics, we've got dwarf clerics, we've got elf clerics, yep, and then so cleric, fighter, rogue, wizard across human, dwarf and elf. Then down here at the bottom we've got the 4 iconics from the pre-generated character sheets that you can use as well. These are really cool. I have used the pawns that came in my Pathfinder 1st edition box in most of my in-person play, so these will be joining that collection. And then right at the bottom we have another little page. The adventure continues. Want more Pathfinder with additional adventures suited for the beginner's box, or jump into the full version of Pathfinder? So the Troubles in Otari adventure path. So if you enjoyed the beginner box adventure and you want to continue beyond second adventure, you can level up to fourth level with the rules in this adventure, or you can get into the core game and get one of the 4 core books. And then just a little ad for the Pathfinder Society, which is like the D&D Adventurers League on the back. So all in all, when it comes to these 2 box sets, I cannot recommend Pathfinder 2nd Edition highly enough. If you have never played Pathfinder and you're interested in the system, and you've thought to yourself, it seems like quite a crunchy system, quite difficult to get into, pick up this starter set, pick up the beginner box, because it walks you through everything in a really simple and easy to understand way. Everything is labeled, everything is clearly laid out. I don't think you'll find a better way to onboard as making a new character and learning a system in a starter set that I think I've ever come across. This is one of the best starter sets I've ever encountered when it comes to a TTRPG. It's worlds better than the Phandelver starter box. I don't own the other 2, but I've seen unboxings of them. I've seen the Essentials kit up close. I like the Essentials kit for a lot of the accessories that it comes with, but in terms of onboarding brand new players for making new characters and learning to play the game, this is the gold standard as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it's fair to claim that Pathfinder is a difficult system to get into when this box set exists. Yes, if you are going straight into the core rulebook, having come from 5th edition, especially if you're coming from D&D Beyond 5th edition, D&D Beyond's character creator makes it incredibly easy to make characters. If that's what you're familiar with and that's how you learned to make characters and to play the game, going into the core rulebook straight away for Pathfinder 2nd edition is going to be overwhelming. But coming into this, where everything is neatly laid out and it tells you exactly where to put what information, how things work, and it keeps referencing back to other core rules that you need to know throughout, you couldn't ask for a much more player-friendly and new player-friendly approach to learning a game system. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful or useful. If you did, please do leave a like and drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of either of the 2 starter sets. As long as people keep liking these Pathfinder versus 5th edition videos, I'll keep making them, but I need to know that you're enjoying them, so please do let me know down below. But until next time, happy gaming.